Good afternoon. This is Baltimore City Board of Ethics meeting for Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. It's 2:36 p.m. We have members present, Arnold Sampson and John McCauley, as well as myself, Stephen Fogelman, and we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Before we move on, is there any member who or any other interested party who has a hard stop time today? Really for the members' benefit.
I assume we're going to stop at 4:30. That's right, Steve?
Well, we hope before. So I'll call that a hard stop at 4:30. Okay.
That's cool.
All right, let me just jump in real quick and say that per the Open Meetings Act, the board discloses that it adjourned its virtual open meeting on April 12th, 2023 to enter into administrative session at 2:49 p.m. All board members were present at that time and discussed administrative matters, including complaints. Likewise, the board may need to close some or all of this meeting today to preserve the confidentiality mandated by the Ethics Code or is otherwise authorized by the State Open Meetings Act. Upon adjournment of the open session, the board may reconvene for an administrative session to discuss non-public administrative functions of the board. So good afternoon, everyone. A special good afternoon to our newest member, John McCauley. It's great to have another mind up here, and it's also great to have another person contributing to our quorum because member Hengerer, she had something going on and it would have been difficult. We need three to conduct any business, 3 votes. And in fact, with a membership of only 3, all decisions have to be unanimous. So we really appreciate you being here, Mr. McCauley.
Happy to be here. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We look forward to working with you.
I've met you on the phone, Stephen. Thank you for that introduction. And of course, I've met Mara before. I haven't met you, Arnold. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to meet you today.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm sorry, I've got a lot going on around me. Please forgive. Today I'm having a deep cleaning going on in my place. I can't postpone that, but it won't interfere. I'll still be here with you. At least I'm going to lie and say that. Sorry. Sorry.
Excellent. So like I mentioned before we started the meeting, I'd like to move to new business so that we can accommodate some of the guests who have come here on behalf of their bosses and see if we can get this done. Do we want to take it in order? Mara, what do you think?
I have to pull up the agenda. I don't believe Director, let me see. It looks like perhaps there are. Wow, there are a number of people here. I don't believe anyone is here from the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Oh, we do have Masuma. Is that?
Yes. Hi. Yes,
Hi.
I'm here. Thank you.
Great. So, yeah, we can actually Steve, start in order with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, and Masuma is on the line. She could provide some information for us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Masuma.
Hi, thank you for having me. So sorry, our director who submitted the applications, she is on the road right now, so I'm stepping in.
Great. Yeah, we're looking at the request or the action requested for the Board of Estimates. You want to just give a little background?
On the MEMA New American Communities, the charitable solicitation application, and we also sure. I'm sorry.
All right, let's talk about one at a time, probably. Yeah, it'd be best.
Sorry. This is my first time attending one of these meetings, so sorry. I don't know the protocol. Please excuse my lack of knowledge in this.
Oh no, that's okay. We're easy. This isn't the Board of Estimates. So, but yeah, we just want to understand a little bit more about the request for the community fund. How about that?
So the New American Community Fund, we are working with our fiscal sponsor, civic fund, for both of those actually. For fiscal sponsors is our civic fund, and we work with our immigrant communities to provide resources and services and access to resources for both of those funds. They're both for, one of them is, I guess, how do I explain? If we experience one of those, it's not a national disaster, but any sort of like, I guess, immigrant related disasters, or for example, if the buses that were sent to different cities suddenly get sent to us, we would need to tap into some of that funding that we might be able to get to provide some sort of resources or welcome new residents in Baltimore City who might be arriving from a country or a different country, or displaced from a different city or state.
All right, and then what's the difference on the second request here? We have Baltimore, so we just talked about the Immigrant Community Fund, and then now we'll talk about the New American Communities. Is there anything you want to tell us about that, or anything that distinguishes that?
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
That
sure.
one,
We're looking at,
I'm sorry.
no, yeah, we're looking at two separate requests here.
Yes. Give me 1 second because
Mhm.
everything just froze on my computer. But give me 1 second. Let me just, okay.
Sure.
Sure. The Immigrant Community Fund, it is more, I guess, a similar to it's a donation link that we have, that if organizations wants to contribute to the immigrants that are currently living in Baltimore City, that may experience some sort of hardship, would be able to tap into that. It would, if we need to hire a staff, or if we need to work through an issue that the particular community might be experiencing. So that funding would be donations. That account will accept all of those donations to be distributed for immigrant communities.
All right, and all funds are, as in the last case, are managed by the Civic Fund.
Correct.
Okay.
There are fiscal
right,
fiscal sponsors.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's about it. Did anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, we were going to open it up for John and Arnold. Any questions?
None from me, Stephen.
No,
How's it looking, Arnold?
nor I.
Okay.
Nor
All
I.
right.
All right.
Steve,
Oh,
I will add
yes.
that the Baltimore Community Immigrant Fund, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs had a waiver for this fund in the past, and their reports were all filed. Everything looked great on our end. So this would almost be like almost like a renewal waiver. So like a new waiver for that
Right.
same initiative. And then the New American Communities, that's an entirely new initiative. But at least on the Immigrant Community Fund waiver, they filed all of their reports, so they are good. They're very compliant.
Thank you. And
That's super.
I would say we would be the same with our new fund. Thank you.
All right, that sounds very reassuring. And if there's no further discussion, I'll move that we first approve the Baltimore Immigrant Community Fund gift solicitation waiver. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
everyone.
in favor of, all in favor of that approval, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Now I'll move that we approve the New American Communities gift solicitation waiver with a second.
I second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor of the approval thereof signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much for being here. And you did a great job. We're going to tell the boss.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Masuma, take care.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
You too. All right, that's two for one. All right, we're going to move on. Maggie, you have the floor.
Great. Okay. Well, always happy to be with you all. And Chris and Mara are, I feel like, on speed dial for our office, and just cannot say enough about how helpful they are just when we have a question. So I am here with also our friends over at Healing City Baltimore as well. And but we are today talking about the solicitation request for field trips, for summer field trip Fridays. So just to give some quick background and context about 6 weeks ago in a hearing with city schools, we determined that there was going to be a four-day week in terms of offerings for programs for students who are in city schools, both for city schools run school run programs and also program providers who are working to support city school students, third-party program providers. This felt pretty unacceptable to the council member, and he proceeded to have some, I think, conversations and some brainstorming with city schools as to what that could look like. Kind of where they landed was that this was something that would require a little bit of outside the box thinking because in part school building accessibility is an issue. So kind of field trip Fridays were born. Obviously there's gonna be a cost associated with it. It is something that where you have to think about both travel for students, meals, and also potentially entry fees for cultural institutions or, you know, a state park, whatever it is. So those funds kind of quickly add up. And so this would be, this waiver would be so that the council member can advocate for those funds on behalf of the Baltimore's Progress, I think, or sorry, Baltimore's Promise and the Civic Fund. I think the resources would be held by the Civic Fund. I think it sounds like they would partner with Baltimore's Promise to help essentially have Baltimore's Promise interview applicants for micro grants, and the fund would then disperse those micro grants. So we have not gone to the Board of Estimates yet, in sort of a little bit of a switcheroo, just because the Board of Estimates next availability was not going to be until about a week after you all meet, and we wanted to, time is a bit of the essence as we're trying to figure out the funding for this. So appreciate you all hearing us in a little bit of an unorthodox order, but wanted to get this on your radar sooner than later. And I will say the only other sort of additional question that I guess I have for you all is, I think since we sort of wanted to get this submission for the application in as quickly as possible, we've been having, as we have more and more meetings to sort of really flesh this out, I think it is becoming clear that it's not cheap to run summer programming, and the cost for Fridays is going to be a lot. And so, you know, my one question is that I think there's a world where it does exceed, potentially could exceed $50,000. And I think in Section B, Part 3, we did list it as 0 to 50, but wondering whether or not it would make sense to actually put it up to the 150 mark, just because as it seems when we're talking to potential providers, one school bus costs $575 apparently is the going rate. So, and that's for one program, one day. So just want to get your thoughts on kind of how we should do that, if we need to resubmit kind of a new waiver, if we just make an amendment to that waiver.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to accept your amendment right here in our meeting if there's no objection.
No objection.
Okay
that sounds like a good idea.
I like a great idea.
And just so you know, John, Councilmember Cohen's office is kind of a frequent flyer here. They do a lot of these charitable solicitations. And so as a result, they pretty much cross their T's and dot their I's. So we appreciate
We do try
that
to.
heads up right there. Mm-hmm. It'll save you
Great.
another trip. So, so we'll accept that amendment. Is there any discussion or questions here on this request?
No, not for me.
Enough
All
for
right,
me, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, hearing nothing, we'll go ahead and move to approve the solicitation waiver application for Summer Fridays, or as I like the more alliterative, field trip Fridays. Can I get a second?
Yes, I
Second.
second as amended by the oral amendment for the amount. Yes.
All right, thank you. So
Perhaps it should be
all
added perhaps it should be added contingent of Board of Estimate approval, just to be formally
Oh, yeah.
to reintroduce chronological order into chaos.
No, I completely agree. And maybe I should get a proviso at the beginning of the meeting that says everything we do is predicated on BOE approval. So yeah, that having been understood, I will move to approve the field trip Fridays as amended. If I get a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor of approval of the Summer Fridays solicitation waiver application pending BOE approval and with the amendment submitted here today, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Maggie. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thanks so much.
And then is she gonna, yeah, you're sticking around for Healing City, right?
I mean, they run the show. They've all got it covered, but I'll sit back and watch.
Oh, my bad. I don't take anybody's time away. Are you here for that, Miss Legree?
I am, sir. Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Director Legree, would you like to start, or do you want me to provide a little bit of context?
I'll follow your lead, Maura. Yep, provide some context,
All right.
and I can jump in.
Yeah, that might be helpful. So basically, I had spoken with Director Legree and Franny Parker Hale. We discussed Healing City, Baltimore. So Councilmember Cohen's office has had gift solicitation waivers for Healing City, Baltimore for years. It's been a program within the office. And the way that I understand it is that Healing City, Baltimore is now a separate entity. And Director Legree could provide more information, but it's a separate entity with its own staff, and those staff are not city employees. So the question that came to us is that if Healing City, Baltimore would be subject to the ethics law, and if the staff members would be required to request waivers to solicit donations. And it's our understanding that because Healing City, Baltimore is now a separate entity, the staff are not city employees, that entity would not be subject to the ethics law. It would just be employees within Councilmember Cohen's office if they were to solicit donations for Healing City, Baltimore, they would need a waiver. But the organization itself would not need to keep coming back for waivers because now it's completely separate from the city. And we wanted to bring this to the board's attention to see what the board thinks, or if the board members have any other thoughts on the matter. And Director Legree, do you want to provide some more context on how it works?
Thank you. I mean, I think you hit all of the key points, so we don't want to, take too much of your time. But first of all, thank you for having us. Healing City, Baltimore is quite aware of the historical context that got us here. So we know that, when it's new, the founders, co-founders, including Councilman Cohen, we're trying to do everything they can to keep it running, and be able to witness its growth has been great. I too am a former city government employee, having transitioned from my role at Baltimore City Health Department, prior to that at the police department, to support this next stage in Healing City's growth. Collectively, even while I was at the Baltimore City Health Department, we oversee the implementation of the Elijah Cummings Healing City Act, the citywide trainings, and the task force. So we thought it would be a great idea to have someone with the experience of working with city government, as well as understand the community side coming from Baltimore. That's me. So we are ready. We're at the point where we have operational staff that is being covered by our ARPA funds through the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. We also have support from Maryland nonprofits with extra funding from Weinberg to support strengthening our steering committee that Zeke will no longer serve on, so that we can unblur any current blurred lines, we are ready to move towards that. And it's because of the work of Councilman Cohen and other co-founders that we're able to do that now. But we're ready to make that transition with you all, however comfortable you see fit.
Questions?
Yeah, this is from me, Kim or Mara. I'm brand new to this organization and the way it works. I wasn't sure I understood what Mara was saying, that it would be employees of Mr. Cohen's office or something else. And it just sort of felt like if there are employees of Cohen's office who are running this new organization, then, so maybe I misunderstood.
Yes, no, you didn't misunderstand. We can just provide more clarity. So thank you for asking that, right? I am still, it took me a while to become clear as well. So now that we have clarity within both offices, no current employees are an employee of Councilman Cohen's office. Francis Parker Hale, who is also on this call, is a public policy fellow, and she is the last I would say employee or operational staff that straddles the fence, if you will. And moving forward, we won't be doing it that way. So we're wrapping up this blurred line with staff with Franny. Her fellowship ends the last day of this month. She will be going on to law school. We so appreciate her. Any remaining staff that will be working with myself will be covered by ARPA funds and other private donations. We'll have an assistant director coming from Baltimore Child Youth Center, those sorts of things. So as we round out May, there will be no more staff that also works for Councilman Cohen's office. And I ended my tenure with the city the day before I started with Healing City. So there's no discrepancies there.
And are these folks who are now working for the new organization going to be working out of Councilman Cohen's office or separate office?
No, we have a obviously work from home policy, but we are fiscally sponsored by Maryland Philanthropy Network, which has its own office that we have access to. And we've been fiscally sponsored by them for over a year now. So we are well into that process. It's not new, it's very stable, and we're looking to grow.
Okay, thank you for that.
Of course.
Just a quick question. Do you anticipate doing some fundraising on behalf or for the council member's office or vice versa? Just that we have get the full picture that we're actually creating a fully fledged third-party entity that is completely independent from the city.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. It's Amberger, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Totally understand. It is our intention to separate 100% to avoid some of these blurred lines. Obviously, let's be real. If you started something and you're the visionary, then obviously you still very much care about, its growth and how it's being managed. But that was one of the reasons why Councilman Cohen worked with other co-founders to select people that they feel have the skill set to take it to the next stage. We certainly appreciate Ann as well, but she has moved on. So our intention is to separate completely. And while we go through this last final transitional phase with Franny and any other questions that you all have, we can give ourselves another 30 to 60 days to fully wrap it up in a way that is pleasing for the ethics board. But our intention is to separate everything, and that any engagement with Councilman Cohen or any of the other co-founders will be more on a level of advisory along with some other national leaders, as we continue to grow our programs and seek more funding.
Ms. Legree, I have a question for you.
Yes,
This is
Mr.
Arnold Sampson.
You made a reference to Weinberg, and I presume we're talking at Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They have, Weinberg has, without our solicitation, offered funding to Maryland nonprofits to support any of the ARPA recipients with capacity building. So that's something that happened, blessing, divine intervention, divinely orchestrated. We did not ask for that, but we certainly appreciate that. So we are one of several ARPA recipients that will be able to benefit from that funding from Weinberg to Maryland nonprofits.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And if I may just, as a little footnote, even if there should be any kind of connections between the new third-party entity and and the city. There is currently legislation pending. Councilman Schleifer introduced a bill that would identify recipients of Baltimore City funds as quasi-government agencies. I don't like the term quasi-agency because it is the state's terminology. But that, and in that legislation to sweep in the staff of those quasi-government agencies into, or entities into, the ethics law. So, this is just nothing has been done yet, but this is still on the horizon and could be serving as a catch-all for any potential problems that may arise.
Totally understood. We are more than happy and prepared and equipped to support whatever the ethics board needs to make this seamless and easier. And once again, we are not experts at it. So our goal is not to make any mistakes. And with all of your guidance, your questions, we welcome them so that we can make sure that, as Maggie has already said, that we keep our T's crossed and our I's dotted. I would love to be a quasi-government agency. We're not there yet. We're just becoming our own 501c3. I do see the potential for it, but that's a whole nother meeting and a whole nother Zoom call. So, but thank you guys so much. If you need anything from us, just certainly let us know. We're here.
Any other questions? Sounds like somebody's in Vegas. Sounds like a slot machine to me, paying off. All right. So this is a request for guidance, Chris and Mara, not necessarily a vote or a waiver. So what would the board need to do here other than be able to be briefed by the director as we were?
Yes, I would draft information for the board, and we can, since this move would remove an internal entity into outside of our jurisdiction, outside of the ethics laws jurisdiction, I think the facts would be relatively clear cut, and I'll be happy to submit to the board an information or advisory, and then we can take it from there.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Maggie. And we'll look forward to that, Chris.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend when it comes. All right. Bye, Maggie. Okay. We have Deputy Chief Wallace still here.
Yes, sir.
It's a busy
Still
one
here.
for us. We usually don't get so many esteemed guests at one meeting, so this is pretty exciting. So you are batting cleanup for us today, I think.
Perfect, sir.
Thank
I'll
you.
start.
Please
Yes,
take it
sir.
away.
Thank you. And I'll start off by saying thank you to the board. As one of the previous speakers did, I'll also recognize Mara. It's very, very rare in this day and age that you call somebody and they answer the first time you call. So she was a call that I made during a meeting we were having over here, and we were lucky enough to get her on the phone. So that's why we're here. With me today is my executive assistant, Shamika Smith. She's actually running point on this particular document that we presented. And then I also have with me Elise Major Whiteford, who is the planning section chief over here. She has oversight of the entire project. The document, and I believe everybody has a copy, Mara, of the document.
I'm not sure if I provided the document in the agenda, but let me send it to the board
Okay.
right now to review it.
So what OEM is doing right now, and I'm the director of the Office of Emergency Management. What we're doing right now is we're rewriting the City of Baltimore Emergency Operations Plan. It has multiple parts to it. Specific to our visit here today is a support function known as volunteers and donations management. And I'll draw down even deeper. We're more interested in working with the board on the donations management piece. This particular document could be, and I'll loosely call this a step that's implemented during times of disaster, where we are approached by citizens, external partners, and the like wishing to donate in various forms during times of disaster. That could be anywhere from money, gift cards, food, clothing, furniture. We've kind of seen a little bit of everything over the years. And as we rebuild the emergency operations plan, we want to absolutely be on point with regard to the ethics that surround receiving donations. There could be a donations manager that I would appoint. It could be a person from city government. It could be somebody from OEM. The most favorable way to do things during a time of disaster is to focus that type of a donation effort towards one person so that it can be managed and then disseminated out as needed. The last point I'll make is we rarely have control over a surge, if you will, of donations that may come at us. I'll use the example of the Labyrinth Road explosion in 2020. You all may remember that was a catastrophic explosion up there. We lost multiple homes. We had loss of multiple lives. There was a pop-up donation site on the Reisterstown Road Plaza shopping center where people were dropping food, they were dropping clothes, they were dropping furniture way beyond our control. And it became very difficult for us because not only did we not solicit it, we had nobody to manage it. So to kind of draw down on the specifics of why we're here, we're asking for assistance and advice. The document that you're receiving or have received is a draft. However, we want to be very cognizant of the fact that, this can be a moving target for us, but above all else, we want to be absolutely compliant with the ethics rules that surround donations. Again, because it could get very hard for us to manage during times of disaster. And I'll stop there for any questions, sir.
Yeah, Chris, and go ahead, John.
No, I don't have it. No, I don't have a question, Steve.
Yeah.
I don't have a
Question
question
either,
either,
Steve.
Steve.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
just going to add, so regarding the ethics aspect of this, the main concern we would have here is that the ethics law prohibits public servants from accepting gifts from controlled donors or people with certain affiliations with the city. And in a time of emergency or disaster, the idea that the Office of Emergency Management can vet those donations and determine who they're coming from and then accept them, it's very I can't imagine that they're going to be able to vet these incoming donations. So the question is in a time of an emergency, under the ethics law, what would the office be able to do? Would the board be able to issue a waiver or an exception under the law, allowing them to accept donations? Would they have to vet for controlled donors? And what's interesting here is the ethics law creates the gift solicitation waiver, but that's only for solicitation. And as Deputy Chief Wallace was saying, they may not be soliciting donations, they might just be receiving them out of nowhere. And so there isn't necessarily an exception for this unless the board issues an exemption to the ethics law's restrictions on gifts. So that's where the ethics component comes in, is vetting donors. And I wanted to see what you all thought. Yes. And you should have the document in your email if you want to pull it up.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, I mean, I think in an emergency situation, thanks to technology, I mean, this board existed through an emergency situation and we were able to timely, even fast track issues and with respect to waivers and gifts quite well. So I don't think this board needs to put out a policy, a blanket policy of suspending any of these legal requirements, or if we're allowed to. But I do know that in an emergency situation, this board has been able to be extremely receptive and quick turnaround. So I feel pretty comfortable that this board will be here to take care of any of those future questions which may arise. So controlled donor, Deputy Chief, somebody does business with the city. So it is an interesting question. If the furniture of the furniture in City Hall, whatever company that is, you know, if they went and dropped 10 sofas off, for example, the labyrinthine road disaster there, that could be an issue. If you said, hey, can you bring 10 sofas here? That's solicitation of a controlled donor, somebody who does business with the city. But it is very great of me if you don't solicit it, and out of the outpouring of their hearts, somebody sees this on the news, sees that people are leaving donations, etc. If you don't know who it is and you didn't ask for it, I don't know what kind of jurisdiction we have over that. So it's an interesting situation, but mostly in that emergency situation. So, but I think Mara and Chris can guide you just so you understand the basic vetting that would need to be done if you were to make an ask of somebody, usually a bigger donor, somebody who has a lot of things going on in the city and the state as far as their business, and if they contract with city agencies to provide goods or services. But we're really excited that you're here. You know, that you want to be compliant, and we are very lucky to have our staff they pick up the phone. It's not as easy as it used to be. You know, before the pandemic, I don't know, I got more people on the phone. So they are great about this. So if you ever have any question at all, you know, go ahead and call them first. Chris, what would you like to add to this? I mean, yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I would be hesitant to issue a blanket. You know, it wouldn't be necessarily a solicitation, but more an acceptance waiver. But what we could do is add a emergency phone number, that would be my cell phone number, to the process, to the emergency management process, so that, you know, if there's an emergency and gifts start arriving, you know, the only thing you need to do is either call me or text me, and I will, if necessary, drum the board out of bed to process an appropriate emergency waiver, for example. And we could probably vet and agree on the nature and wording of that waiver. So it's a document that just needs to be, you know, certain fields need to be punched in, emailed to us, and we could have it to the board, you know, within a half hour of receiving it. And then we would make sure that the board is responsive to the emergency request. That would be my thinking on that. But
all right, other board members have any thoughts or questions, or do you want to respond, Deputy Chief?
Yeah, I have a larger question, maybe, I probably don't understand what exactly is happening with respect to these donations, but if the fire department is getting donations that are not for the fire department, but for someone else, are they really accepting a gift to the fire department? It feels like they're accepting a gift on behalf of the victims of whatever the disaster may be. And so I just wonder whether there's coverage for that in the statute. I haven't looked at it, obviously. It's sort of on the fly here.
Yeah, we occasionally get that situation. We occasionally get that situation, and it is kind of a it is not addressed directly in the code, where, you know, the agency is kind of a pass-through entity, where donations go through and nothing accrues to the agency, but everything that is donated, be that money, be that in kind, is distributed to the citizen. So the ethics law does not address that specific situation. So, you know, that may be something we want to address as with a policy, or you know, we may just take it on situation by situation. because we have the same coming in, for picnics, for example. You have a supermarket that donates food for a city organized picnic, and the supermarket has a business relationship of some kind with the city. That is, of course, the food can be eaten ideally in the presence of the donor, but it is still kind of it is a pass-through. The agency in that case is a pass-through entity. So that would be something that the board can contemplate. But I think in this situation, we can be reactive to the needs of the emergency.
So, and
So,
Mr. McCauley,
go ahead,
thank you
John.
for that question. I may be able to provide you a little bit of clarity. The Office of Emergency Management, we're embedded within the fire department. Naturally, I sit in front of you today in a fire department uniform, and I fully understand where your question comes from. As an agency embedded within the fire department, we bear primary responsibility during a disaster to coordinate all city resources and services. So, you would not see me as part of the boots on the ground force behind a disaster itself. I would be inside of the EOC leading DPW, Rec and Parks, DHCD, but also coordinating, not soliciting, but coordinating as people wanted to, outwardly donate to the situation itself. I think, and I'll stop there. Did that give you a little bit of clarity on that, sir?
Yeah, that's helpful to understand that. I think I understand it a little better now. I think my question still applies though, which is if that emergency management agency within the fire department coordinating all these things is accepting donations on behalf of the victims, that I just wonder whether it's really accepting a gift to a city employee or government agency. It's sort of as it was called a pass-through, but that may not be necessary to answer today, but it does seem to me like an interesting legal question.
Yeah, and I agree.
John,
go ahead, sir.
No, I was just saying, John, it is your first meeting here today, but I can tell you that this, and I think I speak for Arnold as well, and Melody, if she were here, this is sort of a law school exam ethics question. This is kind of a case of first impression for us here. So, yeah, I think this is something that we definitely have to brainstorm a little bit. But also, I understand that that these things are beneficial and may very well need to take place. So, we'll figure a way, so that everything complies with the law. Yeah, emergency donations though and solicitations we haven't really dealt with those. We've dealt with people got something coming up in 3 months, so they want to come see us. But as far as these flash donations, we might need law changes somewhere in the Emergency Management Act or something that would even address things like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, forgive us because this is a bit of a new one for us.
No, and
I have a
Go ahead,
comment
sir.
to make.
I
I remember the lab.
Labyrinth Road incident. I was working with the police department that day, and I remember the reaction to it. It was a very powerful, tragic event, and it was very spontaneous that when people began to donate, I think, because we hadn't seen anything like that explosion and the fire that, I think it was more of an explosion than fire, but that occurred, and there was a loss of life, limited but still very powerful and unexpected. I'm impressed that the Office of Emergency Management is thinking ahead of how something like that might recur. So hats off to you for that.
Thank you, sir.
The clarity of thought. Yes, sir. And I'm totally supportive of any actions needed to draw out generosity from the citizens of Baltimore. And I think what John was saying, my interpretation of what John's interesting observation is that it would be a pass-through, an unsolicited pass-through. solicitation could be involved, but it would be a pass-through from donors directly to the victims of a difficult or challenging situation. So, hats off to you. And so, but as the chairman said, we will make sure that we approach it properly and in a way that's legally and thoughtfully sufficient. So, yeah, good on
Yes.
you, Steve.
Thank
And
you,
you
sir.
too.
And thank you, sir. And Chairman, the one last point I would make, if you look at the document itself, you'll notice on page 1, there's assignment of primary role and secondary role, and you see agencies listed, should see agencies listed under both. My ask of this board, and I really like the idea that the board is accessible, especially during times of emergency. The one ask I would have of the board today, well, actually, I have two. Moving forward, that we can submit further information and drafts, obviously for your review, and we'll work real close with Mara on that. My second request would be that the board be listed as a secondary agency, and the reason that I say that is, I may not be in this role. I may not be here when the emergency occurs, but whoever's in charge at that point, it could be some of my support staff, when they open the EOP, aka playbook, during times of disaster, and we refer to um, managing donations, they need to be able to see who the primaries and secondaries are so that they can get assistance. So I would respectfully request that the board consider being a secondary agency that would be able to support us during those times, if for no other reason, just this type of advice.
Well, we certainly would be. That said, we've got an analysis of a city council bill that we're discussing later. So I don't want to step afoul of our legal reasoning with that one. But certainly we would love to be a point of contact, like you have your roles and responsibilities here. Chris, as far as the, I don't know, as far as the wordsmithing of it goes, I think I know exactly what the chief wants. And I think we can do that, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You got it by tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're very
Shamika
welcome.
or Elise, did I miss anything? Do we have anything open here?
Chief, I'm not seeing really anything that's coming to mind. It was mainly the donations piece. But I would just ask the board if you see anything that really needs to be addressed in the draft legally. We'd love to have any of your advice, and we really appreciate your help.
Nothing from
Thank
my
you.
end, Chief.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how the board would feel, but we might be able, if the board would like to deliberate more separately, and then we could provide guidance or draft language for their policy just on, the restrictions under the law, so that it's very clear in the policy. That's something that, I don't know, if Chris and I could draft and we could provide to you. I don't know if that would be helpful to the Office of Emergency Management. Any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever we receive back from you, we would certainly incorporate. And then, once it's all, scrubbed and aligned and it's ready for final approval, we would send back and, have you look at it. Typically, what we would do, it'll get final approval from the law department. And I'm also strongly considering circulating it through all agency heads. And I don't mean this particular function in and of itself, but the final EOP. We're very close to having this EOP done. I feel as though it's very solid, but I want to make sure globally that, all the agencies are on board with it. Because it's a legally binding document, and once it's done, the mayor signs it, and I do too. So we want to be spot on, 100% legal, ethical. We want to make sure we do this right. But yes, Mara, thank you for that. I think that would be good.
Chief, I have a question. Did you have FEMA experience?
I do not, sir.
I mean, I say that only because your approach is very thoughtful, and I'm very impressed and pleased. We need smart and forward-thinking things in this city. Good for
I
you.
appreciate that, sir. Thank you. I'm very fortunate. I've been with the fire department for 34 years. I'm very fortunate to have the team around me that I have. You're seeing 2 of about 10 that I have around me. So I thank you for your comments. But it takes a village, you know, and I have a solid team over here. This document is very impressive, the overall EOP document itself, and I'm extraordinarily proud of the work they've done. And you know, this is something that I just want to make sure we're absolutely airtight on this thing, and we're effective when a disaster happens. But thank you for your comments, and Chairman, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your committee today.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for your service. We'll talk
Yes,
to
sir.
you soon.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, Chief.
Thank you
Thanks
again. Bye.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maura.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
All right, that was very instructive for me. It's kind of an unusual request that makes perfect sense. You just have to figure out how to make it happen. All right, I'm gonna see if we can get back to our regular scheduled agenda at this time. We're gonna move to approve the written minutes of April 12th. Is there any discussion, any self-correction, Maura?
No,
You're
all good.
your harshest critic. Your harshest critic. All right, I'm hearing no hubbub about the written minutes for April 12th, so I will move that they be approved for the public session.
Stephen, can I just take 1 second? I haven't reviewed them. I wasn't in the meeting. I don't want to hold up approval.
Oh, right.
Because you don't have, I don't feel like I can really legitimately vote on minutes that I was not present for.
That makes sense. So, yeah, I guess the best thing we can do is defer until next month. And I think there's a legal
I'm sorry
requirement
to hold up the minutes that way, but I don't feel, I haven't read them because I wasn't here.
Well,
We also have,
that says a lot about why they picked John McCauley for a member of the board.
They
Good for you.
wanted a pain in the neck on the board.
Well, we need pain to the neck.
We might already have a couple.
Wait a minute.
I love you guys. Come on. Yeah, we can't talk about her when she's not here. All right. So no, I think he's right. You got us there. So we'll bring it back up. We'll do a 2-for-1 next month,
Ooh.
and you get to vote on the
Sounds good.
10th.
All right.
Yeah. Good.
Fair
Good one.
enough.
Yeah. All right, Chris and Maura, tell us what's going on inside the office over the last 30 days.
Maura, why don't you go ahead? Because you have been the main protagonist of the work.
well, financial disclosures, that's been my main I guess responsibility this last month. So the deadline for financial disclosures was Monday, May 1st, and under the law we were required to send a 5-day late notice to anyone who hadn't filed. So we set that to I believe it's 213, approximately 213 people did not file by the deadline or within 5 days after the deadline, which is a lot. But compared to last year was over 400. So definitely a lot better than last year. So we're still missing, I think now a little over 100 financial disclosure statements. We're required to send a 15-day notice and to notify agency heads, the city solicitor, and the director of the Department of Human Resources. After 30 days, we have to refer outstanding filers to the Office of Inspector General for investigation. And after 60 days, the board may recommend outstanding filers be suspended without pay until they file. Hopefully we won't get to that point. Definitely a lot better than last year. So I'll keep you all informed, but hopefully by the next meeting, everyone will have filed. The board is also authorized to impose a late fee. So that's something that the board can discuss during the administrative session. And regarding the other metrics, for example, help desks, we're so inundated with emails and phone calls, which were all resolved. However, I have been trying to track all of those emails and phone calls, and I'm still catching up. So I don't have the final help desk number. I'll have that at our next meeting. It'll be in the hundreds. And for ethics training, we had a significant number of individuals take ethics training. I was tracking all of them today, so I'll have that final number for April at our next board meeting. And that's my update for the month. Chris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, only that Maura has been doing a fantastic job. I mean, I'm just across from her office, and she's always on the phone, always kindly walking our employees through the Byzantine requests of the respective forms, and so it was very impressive again. So that's most of my other comments, and will be part of the administrative session.
I want to comment about that and say that Mara has been identified several times as Miss Congeniality during this meeting. And I can tell you, she is incredible in terms of her patience with the assisting those of us who might struggle with that disclosure process. I certainly was a beneficiary of her insights, and I still appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
filing. Yeah, no problem.
You might want to bookmark this on YouTube, for your performance review. So, all right, we got.
I echo all that. Can I ask a question, just as a matter of personal interest or curiosity? How many city employees and officials are required to file financial disclosures?
So I could provide the exact number next month. I'm still kind of getting all of our numbers in. But yeah, so an estimate would be between 2,700 and 20, a little under 3,000, about 2,800 individuals are required to file. When we first started in 2020, our office, that number was significantly lower. So each year we tend to identify more filers. So yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And John, that number includes us. It includes a lot of volunteer boards out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than just employees. It's and it's and she'll explain to you too the different levels of employees that usually trigger the ethics filings. And then, but if you're on a board, you're fine.
I found that out yesterday when I got my package from Mara, and I've already filed my my financial disclosure. I'm hoping I did it right. I didn't find, maybe like Arnold, I didn't find that particular website to be very easy to use, I will say.
So this is a note that I can make here. We had put in for additional funding to the system as it exists currently was put in place as a temporary fix about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, prior to my time. We had the Office of the Inspector General had put in for, I believe it was $300,000 to, revamp and make this reporting system not only more user-friendly, but also provide analytical options for the ethics board and ethics board staff. Unfortunately, that was denied. I don't know if you read the Inspector General's letter to the editor in the Sun paper. She very deftly wove that into her comments. So we may hopefully get the funding to revamp this. And yeah, it is very cumbersome, I have to say.
Well, I don't mean to be a complainer, because it wasn't the worst thing I've ever had to do.
No,
but actually the step-by-step taking you through and giving you the YouTube directions was great, but just trying to toggle back and forth and go back
Yeah.
to correct something was very difficult. But anyway, it's also me. It's usually operator error whenever I have a problem. So.
No, actually, just while we're on this, the site actually has a lot of technical errors as well. I've had instances just this week, 2 statements just disappeared. Someone filed, we had the confirmation email, but no record of their filing. This has happened total probably about 4 times in the last 2 years. We've also seen data shuffling where we'll have data from one statement save onto another person's statement. Very concerning issues. I'm constantly working with the IT department almost daily trying to fix these issues. So hopefully our enhancement request will be approved and we'll be able to rebuild something more user-friendly and much more reliable. So you should be aware that this site does have a lot of technical errors. So yeah.
All right, without further ado, let's move on to old business.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving. Solicitation waiver.
Yes, so this was approved. So was the Veterans Day Parade, but they weren't endorsed by the BOE. It was one of those, they didn't follow the typical schedule. Anyway, both of them were endorsed by the BOE, so it's just kind of an FYI.
And
So
we've already granted them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, any discussion on that which we've already granted?
Nope.
That's why it's in the old bin. All right, thank you very much, guys. Let's get on to this is all about you, Chris.
Yeah.
Draft.
So legislation is also the same bill was up for discussion last meeting. In the April meeting, Melody had indicated that she would like to, ponder the implications a little longer before she would sign on to my draft bill report. Again, in summary, what I understand to be an auditing board is to be installed. The bill itself did not include the proper language that would sweep in all the members of that board, 7 task force members, into the ethics law in regard to financial reporting. It is probable that most of the people on that board will already be in that system. I believe the board should have the law specifically integrated, the ethics laws requirements specifically integrated into the city code or into that bill to make sure that everyone is included who needs to be. The second point is a little bit more dicey because it provides that the chairman of the ethics board is an ex officio member of that board, of that task force, which of course would create a conflict for the chairman of the board, and as much as soon as the chair were to accept that nomination, he would also be out of the ethics board by operation of law.
Right.
So that was what my recommendations were: to amend the ethics law to include all the members in the reporting requirements, and then of course to assign the ex officio member position to a city official or employee whose appointment will not result in disqualification from the ethics board. So this as general as I could hold it.
Yeah, we appreciate the thought big time, but there are also great ex-board members out there who are not working for the city and not on a board where there's a conflict. So we definitely appreciate the sentiment there.
Yes. So in regard to the filing of the draft report, is the response, the draft response as it was provided to the board last month, is that acceptable to be sent to the mayor's office, or would you like me to improve or change it.
I was fine with it.
Are you talking about the April 13th, 2023 letter to the president and city council members?
That is correct, yes. Regarding City Council Bill 23-0364.
Yeah, it looked good to me. Thank you.
Me too.
Then,
All right,
do we need to
we're on
move on
board.
this?
I don't think
Okay.
we're all on board. 3-0.
Okay, very good.
We're all on
I
board.
will,
I'll
I
send a
will
letter.
submit
Thank
it.
you.
The next step
Yeah, here.
on
That's
the
Mark.
agenda has already been resolved because we were informed about the confirmation of Mr. McCauley yesterday. Congratulations from the board staff. And we're looking forward to having you aboard. There's this executive nomination by, I believe, the council president who nominated attorney Noelle Newman. My personal response to that is, that's fantastic. I know her from the state's attorney's office, where she was a homicide prosecutor. And I think she ended her career there as a deputy to the previous state's attorney. I can have only good things to say about her. She's very kind, very thorough, very methodical. We'd be very lucky to have her. That's my personal opinion. But,
Thank you very much. All right, if there's no other business here before our public session, I'll move that we adjourn our public session.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye. Thank you all.